Hello, Internet, and welcome once again to the Free-to-Play Cast, brought to you by MMOBomb.com, your home for all things free-to-play related. This is episode 190. We're recording on August 3rd. You're watching it on the 4th or later. We've got serious WTF moments, the future of CCGs, and what would you do about player toxicity? Plus, we've got your feedback from last week on many things. First and foremost, MMO innovation. But before we get started, let's introduce the hosts for today. Once again, from Free to Play Weekly, Mr. Zach Sharps. How are you, sir?
I'm doing good. Finally got 50 gigs of The Elder Scrolls Online off my hard drive. Finished up the the new 2 dungeons that just released, and I'm just done with the game. Already finished most of the content, so I'll wait a year.
You totally beat an MMO, huh?
Pretty much. I mean, it's under the category of I'll visit this every year, but it just doesn't have enough content now. I've done all the dungeons, did most of the other content, don't really got anything else to do.
All right, well, luckily you'll have a card game to play soon. Jason Winter, how are you?
You know, I said we have serious WTF moments. I think we should have serious WWF moments.
I don't.
What you gonna do, brother?
That's the World Wildlife Foundation. So.
Oh, I know. Oh, but people still don't think of it that way. Check my gun. Check my pythons.
All right, and nobody paid for the gun show, so let's get started with the news.
Hey, exercise my Second Amendment, right to bear arms.
Yes. All right, so seriously, what the fuck, Trion Worlds? I just.
Maybe they should get Hulk Hogan to run their company.
Really, WTF. So in news you totally saw coming at some point, but probably not as early as it did, Atlas Reactor is going back to free-to-play mostly, in a fashion. So we talked a few months ago about the stunning decision to make Atlas Reactor the team-based strategic shooter combat type game. Strategy, chess, whatever you want to call it. We talked about that game making the decision after advertising as free-to-play, after beta testing as free-to-play, after doing all of that fun stuff, deciding to go buy-to-play for the low price of $19.99. And while we all, I don't think any of us said this is a bad decision. We kind of thought, you know, maybe this will be better for the game overall. It's just a really, really stupid thing to do after you've advertised all this stuff as being free-to-play, and we did kind of all agree on the downside potentially being it's a pretty niche game, and by making it buy-to-play, you're making it even more niche. Scott Hartzman, in an interview with us, said they didn't consider the game niche, which I thought was oblivious. I thought was totally oblivious on Scott's part, for somebody that I do have quite a bit of respect for, as being a very intelligent man. It was, yeah. So, what happened this week? Well, I'll tell you, Jason. Thanks for asking.
Right.
I'll tell you. So they are putting, and they've always advertised that there was going to be some free components, like they were going to do free trial weekends or free friends passes for X days and things like that, which is pretty standard in this genre, in the online gaming genre in general. So we're fine, no problem with that. It's still buy to play, but you could get a free weekend here and there. But now, there's going to be a totally new free-to-play option in the game that has a payment model. The new option allows everybody to play the game for free as much as you want, Zach.
What you gonna do, brother? When fucking flip-flops come for you?
You're going to even earn reward caches containing specific cosmetics, but you're going to be limited in how often you can actually open those bad boys. And the big limitation comes in the form of freelancers. You're not going to have access to all the freelancers. You're going to have access to whatever freelancers are on the weekly free rotation, on a rotating selection. So, in all intents and purposes, unless you want to open locked boxes unconditionally, Jason, and you absolutely need that particular freelancer, this game just went back to free-to-play, didn't it?
It's like they had what looked like a pretty good free-to-play system, and then, you know, Scott Hartzman and Peter Jew came on your interview and said, you know, we think that wasn't a very good system. We think it was too restrictive. You know, players have to have access to everything. So now they're going to go back to another free-to-play system That's actually worse than the decent one they had before. When they said that one wasn't very good, but now we're going to give you an even crappier one. I'm not going to believe you ever now.
Yeah,
again.
And then of course you can have the one-time purchase if you do want to unlock everything, Zach. So is it a trial? But the thing that stops me from saying it's just a flat-out trial is that they're not just giving you 2 freelancers and that's it. You can play as much as you want, but only with those 2. Kind of like we've seen with Killer Instinct. For the PC and Xbox One, right? Where it's free to play, but you're locked to a specific character. You can't do anything else besides that character. So that's more of a trial in my book. This, I guess, doesn't really hit the trial mark for me, since the freelancers are going to be rotating in and out. But it's free to play, right? I mean, we're back at free to play.
I was trying to find a coin to flip it. That way it sort of give imagery of Trion worlds flip-flopping all the time. But it's one of those things where I think they're just trying to get press. I honestly do. They realize that their game is a niche game. They don't want to admit it. But what they want to do is they want to get press from all the free-to-play websites out there. So what better way to do that than have a somewhat of a free-to-play option, right? And so Trion, they essentially... It's one of those things where their game would have been somewhat good as a buy-to-play game at $20, but at the same time, because Trion's had a bad reputation as of late, free-to-play would have been the better option from the start, but they can't seem to make up their mind, so this is a good middle ground for them. I just think that it's also just sort of a press grab at the same time, because they're hoping that they can get more eyes on their product, while also still maintaining their same monetization strategy and philosophies to a certain degree, but also having a different option to, get other people into their game. So
I think you give us too much credit. I don't think we're that important to them. I think it's more a case of
free publicity.
Yeah, well, sure, but at the risk of pissing off everybody, I don't think we're that great to them. I think it's more a case of that they got their money from they're not free to play. They got all their pre-orders, the $20 or $40 packages, whatever they were, and said, "Hey, we're doing really well with this. Why are we even making it free to play? People are paying for the game already. Let's just make it like that. So then we'll get the guaranteed money coming in." And after they made that announcement, nobody bought again. The sales stopped at that point. And they're like, "Well, shit. Okay, let's go back to free to play so we can start getting more money in." That's how I think it went more so.
Yeah, and I tend to agree with you, and that's kind of the path we all saw, and it's the general path that most of these games take. Launch with a sub, launch with a box fee, whatever the case may be. Milk it until you can't anymore. Make it free to get an influx of players and charge them for the expansion. We've even seen titles like Guild Wars 2 do it, right? Big titles, they milked the box sales as long as they could. They weren't making any more money off of it. They had an expansion coming up. They wanted more players to check it out. We'll give you the initial box for free, and hopefully everybody that's still playing will buy the expansion, and we'll pick up some new players to buy the expansion. This kind of seems like the exact same thing. We predicted this, that at some point it was going to go back to a free-to-play model, but it happened still before it's even...
At light speed.
Yeah, it was just like whoosh. This mode launches August 9th, by the way, so like 5 days from now, free mode will be active in the game. And I just think... From a PR standpoint, on Zach's point, I think this is terrible PR. You've changed your basic payment model, and yeah, you left the buy-to-play option in there, and you want to attract more people with the free-to-play. I get what you're doing, but when you're going this far to the extremes back and forth with your payment models, it looks like you don't have a solid plan for this game.
I don't know. It really comes down to the fact I think more eyes on their product is going to benefit them to a certain degree, because a lot of people I've talked to who played the game, I played it a little bit, it wasn't really my thing, but there were some people that I've talked to that really liked the game, and so I think that they might have a good product that some people would enjoy. So the little bit of negative spin of publicity that they would get from the fact that it swapped to a sort of a middle ground model, I think is gonna not really outweigh the amount of eyes that they're gonna get on it from all the free-to-play websites out there, including other MMORPG websites out there, and game places that cover just online games in general that are going to cover this particular move and be basically awaken people to be like, hey, I can actually go play this game now when I maybe wasn't going to be able to because it was buy to play. So I really think that it's basically just them trying to get more eyes on their products when as everyone knew, as they were walking towards the cliff, when they went buy to play, they weren't going to get that much more sales, and they just fell off the cliff. And they're like, "Oh crap, we need to pop our parachute," and this is their parachute.
Well, and from a player base perspective, and this is again just going by Steam, I know a lot of people are probably playing this through the Glyph launcher instead. I played Trion World games through the Glyph launcher myself, so take this for what it's worth. It's just the Steam charts, but the game's never had more than 200 cap at 187 as the average players, with a peak peak count of all time at 675, but it trends for the last 7 days, for the last month, basically, almost the last month, at under 200 players on Steam. So, I mean, the player base isn't that big. You probably got your $20 from all of them, so insert free-to-play mode. By the way, our game hasn't even technically fully launched yet.
And the worst part, they're inserting a bad free-to-play mode. Yeah, I'm not going to jump back into it. I would, but knowing that I can never buy up freelancers, even by grinding out currency for like a month, that really is a turnoff to me.
Like, do you think League of Legends would have been successful had it launched initially with this type of model?
Oh no, absolutely not.
Or
any other free-to-play game in existence that uses heroes.
Yeah,
this is as bad as giving people outfits for a holiday and then taking them away. I mean, who does that?
Oh God, you and Winning Putt, man, you and Winning Putt, you just won't let it go. They took your leprechaun outfit.
My heart. God.
Yeah, and when I interviewed them, when I did a preview, I said this was before the buy to play conversion. I did a preview with them, where they were taking me through some of the game, and I said, hey, this one, you've had problems with maybe Arcage and Rift to a certain extent and whatnot, but this lends itself perfectly to a free-to-play model that already exists, that's already well established, that makes money. You guys are probably in good shape for this one. And they said, yeah, there's a couple tweaks we want to do on making sure free-to-play players can get cosmetics without having to spend money if it takes them a little longer. But yeah, we want to put a few little tweaks on it, and then boom, buy to play 2 weeks later. It's just the flip-flop back and forth really comes off as we don't really know, and it doesn't have the player base to support one or the other, so we have to have both.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm trying to figure out what exactly they said about when they went buy to play. Was it one of those, it wasn't a good, or it wasn't fun, or free to play is bad?
Yeah, they did.
No. They used the word, which I brought up in the interview, that it wasn't sustainable.
Oh.
That it wasn't sustainable. And so I asked, what metrics were you looking at in just testing that showed you that wasn't sustainable, because you were just passing out the in-game currency for us to test all the systems. What metrics were you using? And they said in the interview that it was based on not only their own internal metrics with other titles, but where they see the market going.
So I just want to ask them if they think that it's not sustainable, and would they jump out of a plane with a parachute if that parachute wasn't sustainable? Like, I don't really get their whole hypocrisy here, and it's really something that's really pissed me off in a sense. I used to really love Trion,
Lots
and then
of us did.
after Arcage, everything just shit the bed. Like, it started a little bit before that, but it wasn't as bad until Arcage. That's when it really just sort of blew up, and we started seeing how disorganized everyone was at Trion, how they just didn't really know what they needed to do in order to sort of reimagine their company after Rift and its success. And so it's so aggravating when you see a company like that just go through this. It's so aggravating.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of us, Jason and I, we've dealt with the Trion people for years. And there was a good company. When Rift went free-to-play, they had what we generally thought at the time was one of the better free-to-play models out there. Over the years, since that free-to-play conversion, a lot has changed as far as the perception of that cash shop goes, and good lord, the number of currencies that are in Rift now that need to be farmed up for random lock boxes of all things. It's just, maybe it's gone awry. And then, like you said, Arcage and Defiance didn't do well, and Trove, okay, you know, it is what it is. And then Warface, which disappeared. End of Nations, which disappeared.
Pavilion.
Yeah, Pavilion Online, which seems to be
Pavilion.
doing okay. As far as the last interview I had with them, they wouldn't give me numbers, of course not, but it seems to be doing okay. But it's just not the company that it was, and we see that in the comments on every Trion article, Jason.
Not just on our site too. It's not just our players.
It's
who
everywhere.
Yeah,
it's
they've
everywhere.
Really. If not for Daybreak, Trion will probably be the least well-regarded MMO company around right now.
And to me, that's sad to see, because they were at one point the top free-to-play company with their initial launch of the Rift payment model, in my book. It's just a mess. I don't know what the hell they're doing, so let's just move on until they figure it out. But if you want to play Atlas Reactor free-to-play, although you're limited on quite a few things, particularly the freelancers, you can do that on August 9th. Now, we also, this week, posted a first look for the Elder Scrolls Legends card game. So you check out that first look if you haven't already, particularly if you like Hearthstone and other CCGs online. We're going to hold off on the actual review portion of that particular game today, guys. Jason has an upcoming event this week where he's going to get some hands-on time with it, since it was just me that got in, and he's also going to be talking to Bethesda. So we're going to hold off on the review portion of that game, or talking about it in detail until next week's show, but check out the first look. Instead, let's talk about CCGs in general, because they are the new hot MOBA. They are the new hot shooter. You know, and we inundated by MOBAs for 2 years. Now everybody and their mother's getting a card game out. And Jason, you've read some articles and put up your own articles speculating that is the CCG trend a housing bubble ready to burst? Or is
we're all going to be ruined.
Or is this
economy's going to collapse?
Or is this a trend we're going to see for quite some time, like we have on the MOBA front? So why don't you walk us through your initial premise, and Zach and I will give our impressions too.
Yeah, I found an article on Gamma Sutra from last week where they asked, "Is the digital CCG boom a bubble?" Analysts weigh in, and then a few different people talk about various aspects of it. You know, why it's such a big deal now, why it's been so successful in recent years, and whether we can draw parallels from the physical CCG world into this. So I dived into that, and I sort of decided that it's coming out now because it is the right time for it, I think. I think both the technology is there, in terms of having mobile devices being a really good venue for simpler games like CCGs and that sort of thing. I think the kind of pseudo-collapse of the MMO genre and the fact that we're not seeing those big AAA games anymore means that people are more into these kind of, developers at least, are more into making these kind of cheaper, more self-contained games, stuff that's easier to get out, stuff where you can still turn a really good, almost MMO game-like profit in them. And I also think that it's not going to collapse, not for a while at least. I mean, I almost thought about drawing a comparison to MMOs, and we said, oh, well, hey, if MMOs are collapsing now, maybe that will collapse. Well, yeah, but MMOs have been around for like 17, 18, if you go back to EverQuest, 17 years. So it might be a while before we see CCGs, like with MOBAs, like with shooters. It's going to be a while before we really reach the point where stuff is just not coming out anymore. I think it's still a stable thing that's going to go on for a while, in part because of the differences between a digital CCG and physical CCGs. Those went through a couple booms and then really harsh collapses for a while. And I think there are enough differences between the two genres that are going to make it so that digital CCGs can stick around for a lot longer, and even smaller ones can still be viable, still be profitable, and hang out even among the big boys for quite a while yet to come.
Zach, what do you think?
Well, I think it's kind of basically the fact that CCGs haven't really been abused as much as MMOs in the past. They basically have been on the physical front for a while, and maybe they were utilized a lot then, and I've seen a lot of physical card games over the years, but as far as on the digital front, it's somewhat of a new thing in a sense. It's been there, but it's not really been polished as much as it is now, and I think that it's not still being sort of utilized as much as MMORPGs were when World of Warcraft had its boom. Sure, we are seeing a lot of CCGs popping up, but it doesn't seem to be as much of a frequency, and a lot of them seem to be trying to do at least a little bit different with them, and it's a lot easier to sort of change the formula of a CCG than it is an MMO in a sense. And so, like, when I go out and I play Hearthstone and then I go play Magic the Gathering, there's very big differences there. And then if I go then and play Chronicle, there's even more big differences there. And then I play Duelist, there's differences there. And so I think some of them will have their similarities and some of them will feel a little bit like one another. But I think that the changes that a lot of these developers are making are enough for me to think that the bubble is not going to burst anytime soon, but eventually the ideas of how to change the formula are going to sort of run dry a bit. We are going to start seeing a lot more of what would be sort of copy-pasted sort of CCGs, and then eventually the bubble will burst. But I think that's definitely not going to happen as quick as the MMORPG bubble bursted.
I agree on one front with both of you. I disagree on another front with both of you. I don't think the bubble's bursting anytime soon, and I don't really attribute that to innovation or money. I attribute that to the universal nature of these types of games, where you're not limited to a PC, you're not limited to a console. By their very nature, they lend themselves very well to the mobile experience, which is a much, 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 much bigger market. So I agree that the bubble's not probably going to burst, but I don't put it more on the content of the games. I just put it on they're able to get it to a much, much bigger audience, much, much faster, with much, much less of an investment. The other thing I do really disagree on this with you is Zach, I don't see innovation on this front at all. And we talked about this in MMOs in general last week, but to me, these all look the same.
Innovation's not the correct word. Innovations.
And I like, in Jason, your article, you got me thinking a little bit. One of the things you said was that Magic the Gathering really didn't lend itself well to the online medium, and really hasn't captured the entire Magic the Gathering audience to play it online, even though you think that it would. And so I was a big Magic the Gathering player back in the day. I still have all my alpha, beta, and revised cards, even Fallen Empires. That was the era that I played in when it first came out. So I'm sure they're worth, quite a bit of money over there, but I have no idea. So I'd have to look it all up. And it's just,
not for Fallen Empires.
No, Fallen Empires, definitely not. But beta and revised, absolutely.
Sure.
So yeah, and I thought, I've played Magic the Gathering online too, and I never stick with it very long. Like, I always think, oh, I'd like to get back into this game, and now I don't have to collect the cards. I can just do it digitally and everything. But I just never play it very long, and I don't know what it is. And we're going to talk more about it next week, but Elder Scrolls Legends, it's getting an A-bomb from me later in the show, and I can't go into too much detail why, but it's just same old, same old. All of these look the same to me. Maybe the format's different. Maybe it's in a board game mentality. Maybe it's in a 3D. You set the card down and a creature's summoned a la Duelist. But they just all look the same to me, and they all play the same. And I don't even have to think about it. When I pick up a card game for the first time, in 2 seconds, I can tell you what my casting cost is, my strength, and what my defense is, and what all of those things do. I just have to learn your word for taunt, your word for guard, your word for trample. Even just that. To me, the genre bores me at this point. Bores me immensely, but I realize it's just not going to go anywhere anytime soon.
We are just such polar opposites on this.
Yeah,
because
I am taking the traditionally Jason Winter role on this
exactly
topic.
The thing. These are all like your standard go kill 10 rats at Moe's then level up that you love, but you hated in CCGs.
I do.
And what we realized, too, a long time ago in the physical world was that's the sort of stuff that just is successful. You try doing some crazy game where you got cards in different locations over here and you got to spin them in different orders and flip them around or whatever. That stuff never catches on. Basically the only formula that ever worked for the long term, especially for the very few exceptions, was you got to have a game where my guys beat up your guys, just straight up, they fight each other, and often almost every time has some sort of license involved, some sort of property. You can't just make it up off your own. Magic the Gathering did that. Maybe a game like Legend of the Five Rings did. But after that, it was all Star Wars, Star Trek, Lord of the Rings, whatever other popular licenses. And that's what maybe is going to be the case here a little bit. That
24.
The bigger ones, 20. Well, so that was awesome. Full Metal Alchemist, that was the greatest game ever. But yeah, that's what a lot of the more recent now, some of the games we're seeing, Elder Scrolls Online or Gwent or something like that. Hearthstone even fits that bill because it's based on World of Warcraft. Having that built-in audience is what really helps. And you can't make them too crazy and too different. Yeah.
But I'm not knocking that. I'm totally not knocking that. I get it. It makes sense. It makes money. It's easy. You can put your spin or your IP on it. I'm not knocking it. It just ain't for me.
Sure, I get that.
The difference between an MMO to and a CCG is MMOs generally make you go through all that mud in order to get to the actual end game. This is the sort of best part of the game. CCGs, you just boot it up and you're right there. And that's why I don't personally have an issue.
Says the guy who has beaten the Elder Scrolls Online and seen the ending credits.
Well, the thing is, that's why I don't really care too much if CCGs have some similarities with each other, because genres have similarities with each other. It's just how it is. But I don't think you can really tell me that Chronicle is the same as Duelist, and Duelist is the same as Hearthstone. They play completely differently, and they may have similarities, but they play completely differently. And that's what I'm seeing out of the CCG genre. As far as Elder Scrolls Legends, I'm still not convinced. I haven't got to play it yet, so I can't really comment on that. But from what I've seen of it, it doesn't really look that much different from a lot of card games out there. So maybe that's like a key case of, yeah, this is exactly what doesn't need to occur within the CCG genre. But I think it's definitely the exception and not really the rest of what everyone else is doing.
It's Hearthstone with 2 lanes and some lane effects.
That's what I basically have seen from gameplay.
Pretty much what it is. Yeah, I couldn't disagree with you more. Okay, fine, there's little tweaks on all these things, but there's a tweak between the Doctor Who Monopoly and the Legend of Zelda Monopoly. At the end of the day, you're still fucking playing Monopoly.
You're not saying Monopoly and Candyland, I was saying, because you use dice on a board.
Yep.
All right, maybe I'm just an old grumpy man when it comes to CCGs, which is ironic because I love physical CCGs still to this day. I'll try something brand new, no problem, no IP, don't care, I'll try it. All right, before we move on to the bombs, I want to get your thinking caps on just for a little bit. I thought, and this is totally like out of the realm of a particular game, although I'm sure we're going to mention a few games in this topic. But get your thinking caps on, gents. Put them on. Let's get started here. I want to know how you would handle player toxicity. This week, Wargaming announced that they were going to be doing a few things. Nothing we've really haven't seen before, with rewarding players that are good boys and good girls and punishing players that are bad girls and bad boys. But at the end of the day, is it really going to do anything? And based on some of the viewer comments, I put one of them in the show today. Riot obviously still has this huge issue with League of Legends and the Dota 2 community, although you don't hear about that one as much. So I want to know, is there really anything that can be done here? Like, if I gave you guys unlimited resources, the tech to do whatever the hell you want to do, and unlimited money, so no barriers on this, what would you do to go into, Jason, like Lord of the Rings Online and fix any the huge negative community aspect of the game, or go into League of Legends and just fix the known toxicity in there? How would you control it? Because you're never going to get rid of it, but how would you control it in a meaningful way?
Orbital mind control lasers.
There you go.
No, but no. Now, my real suggestion is not a whole lot better, and this probably qualifies like an awful idea.
Uh-oh.
But here, because I was looking at this, I was like, I'm sure I've talked about this on shows before, and we brought this up, and either here on Tweemo or whatever. I'm just tired of it, so I'm just going to go with some sort of crazy. First thing that comes in my mind, I'm just going to play with it and see how it goes. So here we go. When you log in, when you first sign up for a game, maybe once you get to a certain point, so you get to level 20 or something, so when you got a little experience or whatever, you can sign up to be part of the Judgment Council, we'll call it. Whenever a player is reported, the report on what he did goes to, say, 5 people who have signed up to be on the Judgment Council. 5 just regular players, not a GM or anything. Maybe a GM gets involved too. And they're the ones who pass judgment on this person. If it's a majority vote, they get disciplined. If it's even like 5-0 and they've been that bad, they get really disciplined. There you go. Let the players handle it. So you never ever why did Wargaming or why did Blizzard or whatever ban you? They didn't do it. Your own players are so sick of your bullshit. Your fellow players are sick of your bullshit that they wanted to get rid of you. So there you go. That's my idea. It's terrible, but it's mine.
So I mean, that sounds very, very similar to what I think ArcAge does, right?
But it's not a player council. It's not a designated number of people. There could be 100,000 people who signed up for this, and every time an infraction occurs, 5 of them are picked at random, and they're the ones who make the move.
Yeah, and that's kind of what Arcade does. They
Oh, is it?
randomly they select a jury from the pool of players. But yeah, I think you have to have some requirements. Like you have to be level 30 and in good standing and stuff
Damn
like
it,
that.
Trion, why are you stealing my
So
ideas?
anybody that's eligible for jury duty, basically, like kind of like in real life.
Okay.
And all eligible players are like queued into it, like once they log in. So it sounds very similar, which I kind of like the idea. I really, really like the idea of communities policing themselves, which that sort of lends itself to while still putting...
It must be an awful idea if Arcade is using it.
Zach, what you got?
I think that that Jason's is definitely a cost-effective way. They wouldn't really have to do too much in terms of like money in order to get that into effect. For me, it really depends on the game. Like if you were to tell me with Rocket League, I have a huge issue with Rocket League where there's an all chat during ranked play. There's no use for it whatsoever other than to trash talk either your teammate or the enemy team. I've never had an instance where my teammate or the enemy team says really anything that's useful in all chat when they could use the quick commands to communicate far quicker and far better. So it really depends on the game and what really lends the reasoning behind having an all chat for. Like with League of Legends, I understand it because it's more tactical. Most of the time, you're going to be playing solo or duo queue. You're not really going to be playing with a full actual team, like say in Rocket League. I always play with a teammate that I usually know. If I play with just a random player, it's fine too. But at the same time, all the pro players don't play just random queues. It's just not what they do. So there's really no reason why they could just, get rid of all chat altogether, and no one I don't think would complain except for the trolls that cause the toxic issues to begin with. Where with League of Legends, I think it would damage the competitiveness of League of Legends because with the way the rank system's set up, it kind of lends itself to have that type of system. So what I think is the solution, especially if I have unlimited resources, I think even just in general, all games should do this, especially for how much money League of Legends makes. Hire a couple employees, whether it be minimum wage up to $15 an hour or $20 an hour. I don't care. Make it so you monitor your community. If you get reports from a lot of players for a particular player, look at his chat logs, ban him for however long, depending on how many offenses it is, and call it good. It's very simplistic. It's what they should already be doing now. It's what you think they're already doing. But there's been many times where I've reported toxic players in my Rocket League matches, and then next thing I know, a couple days later, I get that same exact player causing the same a bunch of shenanigans, and nothing's ever done about it. So it's really one of those things where I think that developers just don't really care too much about their community, in most cases at least, especially with League of Legends. And I think that they certainly need to focus on it more, because I don't like playing League of Legends or any game with a toxic community, because it just, I don't want to be in a toxic sludge of this bunch of acid and a bunch of freaking people being assholes to each other. There's really no fun in that for me. Like, I'm not there to play a hyper competitive sport that I will never actually be pro in. Like, all these people, even in normal queuing, are assholes a lot of time in League of Legends, even if you're doing good. I remember when I was playing Draven, and I went like, I think it was 14 or 2 or whatever. I had a different build than what was the apparent meta or what everyone was saying. And they were like, oh, you're fucking terrible. You're causing us to lose. It's like, I have way more kills than you. If anything, I'm helping us to win. And everyone else was feeding. So it's like, it's so stupid. It's one of those things that the developer just needs to clamp down on it, and they need to police it. They need to, unless it's just not going to end that well.
Yeah, but see, here's like the problem that I have too. It's like there's also the good players that over-report because somebody was being a jerk or somebody was mean to them. Like, I don't feel like Jason should be able to report me because I told him once, learn to fucking play, noob. And that was it. That was all I said. I said it once. I wasn't harassing him. I was just, hey, learn to fucking play, noob. And yeah, I'm being a jerk if I say that. I'm not taking that aspect of this at all. But he also has a profanity filter. If the word fucking is going to be too much for him, turn the profanity filter on. Now, if I'm harassing him and spamming him and stuff, I think you tread a dangerous line there in now we can't have you. Don't do this. If you say bum, we're going to report you.
It depends. It depends on.
I
the
think
context.
It should be done like soccer. I really do. I think it should be done like soccer. Yellow
cards
flag,
and red
yellow
card?
card, red card, you're out. And those cards show up. You can't get them off your title plate. Yellow card shows up on your title plate after a first.
Good idea.
To Zach's point, first investigated an actual offense. So we don't want people just abusing this. I do need people investigating these things from my development side, so Zach doesn't just purposely try to get Jason banned. But investigate it, give him a yellow card. It shows up next to his nameplate. You can't remove it for 30 days unless it's stuck there for 30 days. If you don't have another offense, it'll disappear. If you get another offense in that 30-day period, red card asshole right next to your name. Everybody sees, damn it, Zach's a red card asshole. I ain't teaming up with him. And it shows you that on your queuing screen. So you can opt to just leave before the match even starts if you see a bunch of red card assholes. And then after that, 30 days, you're banned. Treat it like that. I don't know. And I'm sure other games have a similar type 3 strikes and you're out rules, but that's how I would do it. Call them out and give players a chance to not play with them before the match starts.
I think that's a brilliant idea, and I definitely do agree. It definitely depends on the context. What I'm saying, though, as far as learn to fucking play noob, that's fine. If you say it multiple times wherever you're just harassing, then that becomes an issue.
Yep.
But, like, I said GG the other day to someone, they did the abbreviation for kill yourself. That's not fine. I'm sorry, there's some unstable people in the world, and that could trigger them to do something harmful. Most of the time, no. Most people don't even know what the hell the abbreviation for that is. But it's still something that should not be uttered to someone when you tell them GG. Like, it's completely uncalled for, and they should be banned, because it makes me not want to spend money in your game. If you're not doing anything with my money I'm giving you to control your community, to try and at least do stuff to make it so I have a better gameplay experience, I'm not going to give you money. And I stopped giving Rocket League money. I have 500 hours in that game. I should be more than willing to give them money, but they haven't done anything regarding their community to make me actually feel like I should give them money. So it's really a sad thing with a lot of games, because there are ways to try and police it. And even if developers just try to police it, I would be more than happy. But it seems like it's just such a hands-off thing, like, oh, this is just how it is. It's not how it is. It's how you made it be.
I wish more of them would err on the side of taking action rather than inaction. Because, one time saying kill yourself, okay, that's not necessary. That's not the worst thing ever. But that guy should probably at least get a slap on the wrist.
Exactly.
But instead, they're just gonna be like, nobody's hurt by it. He wasn't using obscenities. Nothing's gonna happen. So.
I mean, I just laughed at it personally.
Sure,
but I still reported him because that guy obviously is toxic enough to say kill yourself. So I was like, all right, report.
Yellow card asshole, right there.
Yeah, there you go.
All right, let's slide over, and I really don't think it can be all that controlled all that well.
Mind control lasers, I'm telling you.
And a big part of why I don't think it can be controlled all that well is obviously the anonymity of the internet. But on the developer side, you need a clear-cut set of rules of what is acceptable and what is not in your game, and then you need to be willing to enforce it. And that first step is missing in so many games where the rules of conduct are so vague that there's room to argue.
But that's what I'm talking about. It's like your rules of conduct can be, if we see you doing something we don't like, we can ban you. That can be it. You don't get to decide, oh, well, I paid my $40. Why did you ban me for saying kill yourself? Because you said kill yourself. We don't like that. Get out. There's nothing wrong with that. That's perfectly legal.
I didn't say it was illegal.
Huh?
Let's go to the weekly bombs! Zach, don't kill yourself. All right. We love you too much.
I got too many MMOs to play, man.
not if you keep beating them.
You can't die until you finish all your MMOs.
Not if you keep beating them. I'm going to get mine out of the way real quick. A-bomb to the Elder Scrolls Legends, but I guess I'll tell you why next week after we get some more additional information from Bethesda. Go ahead, Zach.
I got a dub-bomb to Snail Games, basically for using the Unreal 4 engine, something that shouldn't really be that hard for developers to do. But apparently a lot of developers like to utilize underdeveloped engines like the Hero engine or their own created engine, like what Pearl Abyss, I want to say, did with Dom Games as far as creating Black Desert in a super unoptimized engine. And I really just think that when it really comes down to it, developers need to understand that unless they want to commit as much time developing an engine as they do a game, they should not use said engine. They should use an engine that's already known to be really good, basically made by someone who specializes in engine creation, like with the Unreal 4 engine. and just go from there, because that engine is gorgeous. It's really easy to code for from what I've heard, and it's super optimized, and there's a lot of stuff you can do in it. So I really don't see why other developers shouldn't utilize it, and I'm really happy that Snail Games is just going all in with that engine, and their games will be created in it.
Achieved with CryEngine.
CryEngine is all right too.
It's all right. It's just that's what made me think at the beginning of every game. Achieved with CryEngine. Go ahead, Jason.
I'm going to give a da-bomb to Overwatch. It's been out over 2 months now. I'm still playing it almost every night. Really like the looks of their summer festival they just started up, the Summer Games celebration, all the new skins and so on. Skins, skins for a seasonal event that you're going to get to keep after they're done. I know that shocks some people. But yeah, I really do enjoy it. I like the innovations they're doing and how they're continuing to produce new stuff for it.
Just won't let it go, huh?
No, never.
From the community, Keck says, a game like ArcAge with no cash shop and a monthly sub is a good start. We talked about MMO innovation last week. ArcAge had a really good formula going. A lot of big MMORPG streamers loved it during closed beta tests, where no pay-to-win was involved. Then the cash shop hit on release and surprised everyone with a low punch and sinked thereafter. Sunk thereafter is probably what we wanted there. Sink it. I truly believe an MMO with this format can easily surpass the current World of Warcraft. Even the great Criparian believes so too. Most players only play World of Warcraft because it's the only thing they know, too scared to try something different, or simply don't want to leave a game they've been playing since vanilla and all go to waste.
So wait, a game with no cash shop and a monthly sub is innovation? That's actually kind of going backwards.
I wish it would go backwards in some cases. God, some of the cash shops nowadays.
I have said it for years. Everybody wants free-to-play games until they find the one they really like, and then they wish it was sub-based.
Completely ruined sometimes too, man. Oh my god, with ArcAge.
Go ahead, Jason.
Community trash. What is this? The online community? What does that mean?
Talking about the online community.
Oh, okay. Community is nasty most of the times on the forums and in-game as well. The behavior has become worse than ever online. I see people saying things on the computer, making smart comments every day as they have no respect for themselves and other people around them on the forum. I mean, if you go into a YouTube channel, seeing ugly comments from random people on the site that tell you it is garbage. I do hear most people say the community is toxic, which that last word should not be used online. It is the wrong word to use on the computer. I really don't think the community is nice at all, as it is just a bunch of lie coming from random people on the internet. It is not smart to be a part of any online community. The whole world will be against you if you just the whole world will be against you if you put the truth on the forum website or somewhere. You're trying to edit this as I'm writing it, or somewhere else on the internet. The MMO community is garbage as well.
And that's, my friends, why we should be giving out. Whoops, that's definitely the wrong button. That's why we give out the yellow card, assholes. Go ahead, Zach.
It's really one of those things where verbal diarrhea used to leave a bad taste in your mouth, but now it doesn't for a lot of people. So they just constantly spew it.
That is a disgusting image.
Elusive X Treasure says, I may be wrong here, but I feel like the Elder Scrolls series is a good example of innovation. I think that we don't see it much in MMOs because they price mill off the good bits in other games, such as a wardrobe system and a dynamic events. After a while, it's hard to say who started it. Honestly, for me, it's more about fun and dynamic gameplay and interesting classes than innovation.
Kind of where we landed last week, Jason. It's about
it's funny though that the first what was the first
things off.
What was the first DLC in any game that people flipped out over?
I have no idea.
Horse Armor, Oblivion.
Oh, jeez.
So.
Karulai says, show me a game that completely breaks the convention mold, and you've shown me a niche game with limited market success. And this I kind of think of a hard point to argue when you have examples on your side like this user does. Just think, as soon as I read that sentence, I immediately thought of stuff like Atlas Reactor, The Secret World, stuff like that. Successful games are never crazily weird. They have to be familiar enough for players to adopt. Once players adopt a new concept, then the goalpost for what is conventional can move forward. Kind of right on par with what we said last week.
Well, what we usually see, too, is it's always the small companies, the independent companies are going to try the weird new things, and 99% of them will fail, but that 1% that's successful, starts its own thing, and then all the big companies imitate that, and that becomes conventional. So
hard to argue with World of Warcraft just sucking up all the cool features from other games and putting it in Warcraft. It's a smart business task.
Just about everything else Blizzard has done lately.
Yep.
Go ahead, Zach.
Tommy Barian says, "Hey, the bomb for Guild Wars 2's best new feature, salvage all." I agree.
Jason gives it applause. Go ahead, Jason.
Ignat Adrian says, also, I'd like to give a da-bomb to the first episodes of the weekly news. Should be noted that I like Zach's work on the weekly news. This is no dislike to him. Well, of course, you said you liked it. I don't get it. I've been subscribed to him and watched his content long before he joined MMO Bomb. Zach is doing good with the weekly news, but this da-bomb is about one weekend day when there wasn't much going on the webs and I was hungry for content. I randomly decided to look for the first episodes of weekly news expecting some lame content, like it always is with the early days of most shows. But I was surprised to discover the show started up on a high note. You guys had an animated character, and the jokes were actually fun. I was stunned. Although you ditched that format really fast, it was entertaining to watch those first episodes. Da bomb to those first episodes.
Sorry, Zach.
Actually, it was funny when I first started with Free to Play Weekly. I look back at all the previous episodes, like the evolution of it, and it was interesting to see how the show evolved over time. It certainly was.
Little known fact: I used to write the scripts for those. Taylor Spears says, could you guys possibly cover the issues players are having with League of Legends and why people are quitting, and possibly it might help Riot see why their game is falling off slowly? I put that on there not because I can speak to it. I certainly can't. But Zach, I figured maybe you'd be able to shed a little light on what's going on. You poke your nose in on League of Legends every so often.
The only thing I can really think of, because I don't really play it all too much, is just the fact that everyone's been longing for a new sort of repetitive but really fun and addicting game to play. And some people have found that in Overwatch. We saw the Korean numbers where within the Korean gaming cafes, the numbers is completely just, I guess you could say, just went completely down when it comes to League of Legends. And as far as with Overwatch, it immediately shot up. And so I think that those people who were longing for something new are finally finding something new that they really enjoy. I don't think Overwatch is really going to die down that much over time, and I think that League of Legends isn't going to die because of this. I think that there's just been a good chunk of players that just wanted something different. They finally got something different, and I think that the numbers will finally plateau and then go back up over time again.
Taylor, if you're looking for something a little more specific, or there's some known thing that I should probably know about, so at least I can report on it, definitely throw something else in the comments. We'd be happy to look into it, no problem. Question of the week last week: who had the right vision for Firefall in your book? Was it Mark Kern, or was it the 9? Ignet and Adrian says, old Firefall, best Firefall. For me, this is not a fight between the 9 or Mark Kern. Not a fight between Mark's fans, if he even has fans, I don't know, and haters. Not about some ex-Red Fivers assumed mistakes versus some angry ex-Red Fivers with their own agenda, and not about some failed marketing stunt with a bus.
It's always got to be about the bus.
When it comes to Ember, I do not care about all that, and luckily I avoid Reddit like the plague, so I'm at an advantage of not having all that thrown in my face every few minutes. For me, Mark's project means bringing back the game I had the most fun in, the old Firefall experience. Countless times I googled games like Firefall and started browsing all kinds of forums or sites for that one game I missed that could be what Firefall was. Never found it. Most recommended ones seem to be Warframe and PlanetSide 2, and while they're both great games, I personally find them to be wildly different from Firefall. In my opinion, the closest one could be Global Agenda, but even GA was quite different. Although that one was also quite fun at launch and ruined after that, so I guess it has more in common with Firefall than I first thought, lol. Anyway, the point is that I do really hope Ember will be a real game in a few years and not just a project, a dream, or a long-lost game experience. What an insightful comment. Thank you. Thank you. Go ahead, Zach.
Ewan says, I feel sorry for Red 5. I like their ideas, and they finally progressed on the questing, but it was too damn late. I also think a lack of communication on telling people about Firefall when they updated their content after release wasn't good. It only got the most news and hype before it even came out. Kind of like Watch Dogs, which was a bad idea.
Ouch. Jason.
Dracon says, I love Firefall at first, but over time, the only thing that I sometimes returned for in Firefall was those awesome bikes you can drive around the world. Maybe they should have made a vehicle racing game.
What's funny on this one about Firefall, Jason, you and I talked about this. I was not a fan of the original Firefall. It was too directionless for me, and I'm all about, if you want me to go and explore an open world, fine, but it just seemed like one mindless meandering through the world to me. And then I read an article you posted a couple months ago about recent updates and questing and stuff, and I was like, oh, I think I might actually like to play this because it's more like traditional MMORPGs, I guess. So it's kind of funny for me. I'm going the other way on it. Slash Coon says, Alpha Firefall was so much more enjoyable than the later versions that got released. You had the possibilities in front of you when you played, but the game took a U-turn and turned into something that made me feel like I was locked into a cage looking for the key to escape. So Slash Coon, kind of the exact opposite of my impressions there. Go ahead, Zach, finish it up.
Metallica fan 1442 says, awesome show, guys. As far as the Red 5 fiasco, I think it was probably a combination of both groups, i.e. Mark Kern and the investors. I feel sorry for the employees that have been laid off. Hopefully they will find jobs soon. Also, don't back any projects on Kickstarter till you see gameplay.
I don't even know.
Even after that.
I say it's very, 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 let me say it one more time, very solid foundation before you invest in those.
Yeah,
So.
I agree that you shouldn't be investing until at the very least you say gameplay, but I personally wouldn't even invest at that point yet. And I have backed things on Kickstarters, but I'm very selective, particularly on gaming.
I think I just want to say one thing really quick. I think a great example of a good solid foundation was Albion Online when it was in alpha. That was a great foundation, and it's only improved ever since. So that's my thoughts.
Question of the week for next week: how would you police or reward a gaming community to cut back on toxic behavior? Is our yellow card, red card, you're out asshole system the one? Is a judge, jury, and executioner that's the player base the one? Is it just additional development for like Zach and additional resources to sort through and actually police their community rather than sit and do nothing? What's the answer? How would you do it given unlimited resources, time, and money? Until next week, Zach, where can everybody find you?
You can find me on the Twitters at Zach Sharps. I might be posting actual YouTube videos again. I'm still trying to sort of think of how I want to rebrand my channel and get away from sort of the top fives that I only did for like 3 weeks, and then it just went back to sort of normal, me talking about whatever. So eventually I'll be back doing actual normal videos on that channel. If you guys want to follow me on Twitter, though, that's how you'll get the updates for it. And yeah.
That's youtube.com/ZachBeatsMMOs. Jason!
You can find me on Twitter at WinterInformal and streaming twitch.tv/JasonWinter and on YouTube at youtube.com/IHateTemporary holiday outfits.
I'm Mike Byrne, aka Magic Man. You can follow me on Twitter as always at MagicMan1. That's MAGICKMANN1. Or come on over to MMOBomb.com where we've got all the videos, news articles, Jason editorializing about comments and giveaways that you could want. Until next time, gang, stay safe. We'll see you on the servers.